Today we're starting a new series that I'm very excited about, which is roasting my subscribers' homes. Now, normally I'm not the type to be very roasty, especially with subscribers or clients, because I'm very aware that you are letting me into your home, which is your safe space, your sacred space, and that requires a lot of trust. But Eva emailed me recently and was like, feel free to roast both the befores and afters of my home. So that is exactly what we're gonna do today. If you're new here, my name is Medora. I use they, them pronouns. I make videos about home design for girls, gays, and theys. And if you want me to showcase and react to your home in a video, whether it's more of in a fun, sassy, roasty kind of way, or in kind of more of a gentle, praising, advice-giving kind of way, email me with a bunch of pictures and any relevant information you want me to include. I'll put a list down below of any possible information you might want to include, and depending on how many submissions I get, I might do one video per submission, or I might do one video with a rapid-fire round of 10 or 20 submissions. Also, if you do submit your space and it's been a while, don't freak out, because I usually have my videos planned 2 months in advance, so it might take a while to kind of fit these in here. But I am super nosy and super excited to see what you all have going on in your homes. So with that, let's roast Eva's home. Also, just a reminder that this is a real person's home, so please be kind in the comments. She sent in her home to get roasted by me, not by all of you. Okay, so we're gonna do this entire video in MILANOTE. Not sponsored, but it should be, because MILANOTE genuinely is a really great free tool to use, especially for home design stuff, because you can pull things from different areas of the internet, whether it's from whatever brands we aren't currently boycotting, or if it's from independent sellers on Etsy, whatever you want. If it has a link, you can put a link with the image and the link will stay with the image, and it is so user-friendly for the average person, and it's really great for mood boarding and stuff like that. MILANOTE, please sponsor me. Anyways, so Eva emailed me and she told me all about her kitchen renovation, which is what we're going to be focusing on today. She said the total cost was between 30 and 50,000 Swedish krona, which sounds like a lot, but I did the conversion and that's 3 to 5,000 US dollars. So I am very impressed with the level of renovation for that cheap of a budget. She said her goals were to embrace her weird side and to not do any trends, no standard design, no rules, just her and her style. As we'll see in the before photos, it was very farmhouse, a little bit shabby chic, and she didn't want any of that. She said it used to be very Alamoja? Where did that pronunciation go?
Allmoge. Allmoge.
Alamuga. Okay, so Alamuga is basically the Swedish folk art style, which honestly, I personally really love. So, as we'll see in some photos, there are bits and pieces of the before that I actually really like. But yeah, if that's not your style, that's not your style. She did say, feel free to roast both my before and after pictures if you want. So we will be doing that. And the first thing that I'm going to roast before we even get into it is the picture quality. I don't know if that was really on the table, but she is an empty nester, so I assume that she didn't grow up with technology in the same way that us millennials did. So we're gonna do our best with the pictures that we have. But also I think this is a really good time to mention that photography can impact how you view a space so much. There is such an art to photography, especially interior photography, which is very different than portrait photography, because with portrait photography, you can just tell a subject where to stand and how to move their face and all of that. But with interior photography, you really have to just work with what's there. So mad respect for interior photographers, because it is much harder than it looks. And honestly, most of the time I feel like the difference between having a Pinterest-worthy home and a not Pinterest-worthy home is literally just the photos and how they're styled and how the composition impacts the overall storytelling of your home. So yeah, mini rant, but there's a very good chance that your home isn't actually ugly. It just hasn't been photographed well. But that's maybe a topic for another day. Okay, so before we get into the pictures, a few things that were kind of wrong with the kitchen before they did this renovation. There was nicotine damage on the patio door. The floor had gaps and it was squeaking. The shelf holders and drawer brackets were plastic and they were starting to break. She really didn't like the farmhouse vibe, but she did want to incorporate some of the 70s because the home was built in the 70s. So they did keep little touches here and there of farmhouse, which was also kind of a tribute to her ancestors who were crafters living in small cottages since the 1700s, which I love and find very sweet and meaningful. And then she said they suspected water damage around the sink. So plenty of good reasons to do a kitchen renovation. So as we'll see in the photos, the design idea started with the secondhand knobs for the cabinets that we'll see they're cute round wooden handles. And they found a secondhand kitchen on Marketplace, which is just such a great way to go about doing a renovation. Now, it does mean that you'll have to be maybe a little bit more flexible about how you're using materials and possible layouts and stuff like that. But I've seen this frequently enough that people are giving away whole entire kitchens, like cabinets, countertops, appliances, like everything. So if you find a secondhand kitchen that you can work with the style of, this is a fantastic way to save money. She said they hired a carpenter, an electrician, and a plumber, but they did the painting and plastering themselves. And she did say that thankfully I think it was the electrician and the plumber found an outlet for the dishwasher that was not in a safe space and it had to be moved. Like it could have caused some major issues. So, like, not to be dramatic, but doing renovations can literally save your life because they are a very good opportunity to update wiring or fix problems that might become much bigger problems down the road, like water damage or something like that. So if you do own your house, it's not a bad idea to renovate every once in a while. Now, I don't recommend doing like a brand new renovation where everything is brand new every 10 years because that's just wasteful, but something very simple and crafty like this where you just get in there, make sure everything is like looking good, freshen things up a bit. This is where it's at. So to get into some of the before pictures, yeah. Okay, so this is a perfect example of the like farmhouse style that she was not liking, which, not gonna lie, I really like it. I like the beadboard on the wall. I like that all of the cabinets and the appliances and the backsplash are all white, so it kind of like blends into each other and nothing sticks out too much. I also really love, can I zoom in? No. I also really love this like built-in wooden island thingy down here. I love the little detail in the corners where you can like see how the individual pieces are kind of joined together. I think it's a really beautiful tone of wood, and I don't think I have a front picture of this island cabinet thingy, but from what I can see of this, I really love it. I love the plants in the window because that's such a practical place to put them that it just like makes sense and it feels right. And I'm just now remembering that I'm supposed to be roasting this, so let's see what is in here to roast. There's too much clutter on the shelves. There's definitely too much clutter on the counter, and it's like not styled at all. I don't love these seams in the ceiling. I don't know what this like thing on the wall over here is. It could definitely use some more color and some more like life, but I'm really not mad at this angle of the room. Now, getting onto this angle, first thing that stands out is those drawers. I don't know what's going on with those drawers, but someone sure made a decision there. I hate that light up here, the ceiling light. And then I like that there is under cabinet lighting, but it's so thick and you can like see the light box, and it would be so cheap and so easy to get an LED cob strip light and just have that go all the way across underneath all of the upper cabinets. So easy, so effective, so energy efficient. Definitely not a fan of that light in particular. I do kind of like this little like shelf nook thingy above the range. I do think that that's a very fun place to add a pop of color. I just don't know that orange is that color because, yeah, no thanks. Also, this corner over here feels very dark. So I'd love to see like a cute little table lamp on the counter in this corner or something. Yeah, and then just overall, too much stuff on the counters. It feels very messy. And like, if you are gonna have things on the counters, just have them be pretty things. I'm definitely seeing a lack of art overall, although I do like how she's incorporating vertical storage by using these shelves and then also hanging pot holders on the backsplash and these towels up on the wall and on the cabinets. Definitely a good use of space there. Okay. Another angle. This is the fridge. I am so confused about this fridge. Is this two different fridges? Is it a fridge and a freezer? Are they separate? Because this does not look like one unit, and I am confused about that. It looks like there's built-in cabinets that go all the way around the fridge. So big points for storage there. But this looks super uneven. I don't know if that's just the photo, but like, yeah, none of these lines look parallel to the ceiling, which is bugging me so much. Also, like the mismatched knobs. Like there's a little silver knob right there, and then there's two black knobs, and someone took some creative liberties with this kitchen, and not in a good way. And then this is a picture of the kitchen that she found secondhand. So this is not a picture in her home, but these are the cabinets and I think the appliances and the countertop and everything like that. Maybe even the fridge, it looks like. So it's hard to tell. This is a really horrible photo, but I'm curious if this was originally wood or if it's painted yellow, and I can't tell. Okay, so to get into the after, this is probably a good first photo to start with. I'm going to start off with a few favorite things because there are definitely things I like about this. And then we will get into the roast section. I love the green on the upper cabinets and the ceiling. I feel like that makes it feel much more spacious in a way that I don't usually see. I don't usually see the upper cabinet color translated onto the ceiling, which is a super neat choice that I really love. I have no idea why you kept this white trim in there instead of painting that green, because I feel like that should also be green. But you know, whatever. But I think my favorite thing about this kitchen is the stainless steel countertop with an integrated sink. And then also that mixed with the stainless steel backsplash. As we all know, I've been very into stainless steel recently, especially in very like practical utilitarian contexts like this. And I think that was just such a perfect decision for the space. I know we didn't point out the floor earlier. The floor was... Where's a good picture of it? You can see a little bit here. It's this like outdated, like big, probably 12 by 12 terracotta-ish color tile, but it looks pretty like fake and dirty and dated. So that's what was there before. And now we've got this wood in here. It is laminate. She said they didn't have the budget for real wood, so I understand that. If you don't have the budget for real wood flooring, I would recommend looking into other options because laminate that looks like wood will never actually compare to real wood. It's just not the same. So I would definitely recommend looking into other options like concrete or linoleum or something like that, because surprise, surprise, linoleum is actually very eco-friendly and it can come in a ton of different colors and patterns, and you can like, there's so much you can do with it, and it's not pretending to be wood. Also, I've heard really good things about cork flooring, especially in kitchens. It kind of dampens the sound while you're cooking, and it's also a little bit softer if you drop something, so it's less likely to break. So yeah, anything but the fake wood, but I'm not mad at how it looks in pictures, at least. I do really love that she replaced the ugly overhead light with these track lights so that you can like point the light where you want it instead of having just like one light on the ceiling. Because as we all know, ceiling lights are very important. Like you do need to be able to see, especially when you're in a kitchen, but we can make them like at least a little bit less ugly. I am, however, not a huge fan of these specific track lights because at least from the picture, it looks like they have a pretty cool toned light bulb in them. And it also looks like part of each light thing is clear instead of it being like a can spotlight kind of thing where the entire thing is opaque and then the light just comes out at the end. And I feel like this could have been such a cool spot to... if you've been here for any amount of time, you'll know that I love a matte white light fixture that blends into the ceiling. But in this case, I think it would have been really fun to either get a matte white light fixture and then paint it the same green color as the ceiling, obviously making sure that you're using LED bulbs so that it doesn't get hot, or if the light bulbs do get hot, making sure that you're using a heat-safe paint, or using this as an opportunity to bring in a really fun accent color. Because I'm not a huge fan of painting things as DIYs, mostly because it's really easy to get excited about the painting part and then skip all of the prep work, and then 6 months later you're like, why does this look like complete shit? And it's because you didn't do the prep work. You didn't do everything you needed to do in order to paint it properly and finish it properly. But with things that you're not actually going to be physically touching, like lights on the ceiling, that is a really great opportunity to DIY and paint something. And it would have been so much fun to bring in a pop of color here, like a red or a cobalt blue, or like some color that feels a little bit more intentional. Because right now it feels like you just kind of got these lights secondhand and you were like, okay, well, these are good enough. But looking at the space as a whole, it does feel a little bit unfinished to me. So I feel like a little pop of color up in the lights would make such a difference. Okay, let's move on because there are so many other photos. Here's a little close-up of this breakfast nook. I love that she kept the giant wood cutting board because that feels very necessary with all of the extra non-wood materials going on. And I kind of hate the art that's in the background, but it's also not my art. And art in particular is very subjective and it's hard to be mean about people's art. But yeah, not quite the vibe. I would maybe hang some of those pieces closer together. Like I really like how this piece and the sunflowers, those feel hung close enough together, but I would bring these two matching pieces either down, or since they're matching, I would probably put them somewhere else and like stack them on top of each other. I do like the size of this cute little one. That's nice. I don't love a mirror in a gallery wall. Like I know it's meant to bring in variety and whatever, but it doesn't feel very cohesive. So yeah, I wish we had a better picture of that, but we'll see. Here's a bigger view of the breakfast nook. It's very backlit. It's kind of hard to see. There's some curtains down here. I'm not mad at a curtain, but like, why the grommets? There are so many different ways of putting a curtain on a curtain rod. We need to move past the grommets. And then honestly, I don't love the light fixture. I kind of feel like it's giving like 2010s boho, and I am not really into it. I feel like if she didn't want to paint the track lights some sort of statement color, this would have been a really great spot to bring in a little bit more of a statement. I do like that it helps bring in some more natural textures because we're definitely missing some of that. But yeah, I don't like that I can see the light bulb through here. Not a fan of that. And then also just tiny little update, paint the cord cover. That would take you like 2 minutes. I do, however, really like the use of vertical storage by putting this rod in the window for hanging things. That is very clever. Okay, let's see the rest of this island. It looks very functional. I'm definitely a little confused about the three or possibly four different types of drawer fronts. I'm sure she was just piecing it together and making do with what she had, and yeah, I hate it. um, I really, really preferred what was there before. Again, we didn't have a front view. I don't know if what she had there was functional or not, which is probably why she decided to swap it out. But yeah, I don't like anything about this. I like the size and the shape of it, but that's probably about the only thing that I wouldn't change. Yeah, I don't know if I'm good at these roasting videos. I'm a little too nice for this, I think. Here's a view of more of what's going on back here. It's definitely a little bit of a hodgepodge of a mess in terms of like the different, like there's storage under that one little counter bit. There's also storage under this counter. There's also this giant thing on top of the counter, but like then this counter bit does not extend all the way. And again, working with found materials, you kind of just have to like do what you got to do, figure things out, be creative. And I'm glad she was able to find different ways to incorporate some extra storage in here, but I don't necessarily love how it was implemented. I feel like with the very sleek design of the kitchen, we could have found a better way to incorporate this in a much more streamlined kind of way. But let's see. Ooh, okay. We are getting to a part that I do love. I'm so curious. Okay, why is this lower cabinet white when the rest of them are gray? Because I love the white. The white would look so good. The white ties in with the appliances. I hate the gray, not just because I hate the color gray, but I hate the gray specifically because it really emphasizes the appliances in a way that I don't like. Like if you go, back to this one, the range in the dishwasher just like really stick out in a way that I don't love. And then I feel like the gray also makes the stainless steel countertop blend in more than I want it to. I really want the stainless steel countertop to kind of be the moment in the kitchen, other than the green, obviously. And then I'm curious about this little extension of the lower cabinets. Maybe they just had to fill in space. I don't know. I think I like this green color the best in this photo so far. It's much more chartreusey. I feel like in some of these other photos, it's a little bit more like avocado lime green, which I guess makes sense. They were going for a little bit more 70s. Like this is, yeah, again, very avocado, very bright. I appreciate the commitment because I feel like if you don't fully commit to color and you just like try to add a little few pops of color here and there, it doesn't really work. But if you commit like this, it'll work. It definitely brings a much more like vibrant, playful energy to the room, which I do appreciate. But yeah, I think I like the color here best. It's a little bit more yellow, a little bit more muted. And so I'd be curious to see which color it's actually closer to in real life. And I have a feeling it's the first one and not this one. But I do really love this piece of art up here. I think that's like a really great placement. It's kind of hard to see in this photo, but there is a better photo. The way that she chose to paint this line right here, it's at an angle. Eva, you could have just gone straight across right there. Why the angle? I'm very confused by that. I think I would prefer for this art to be a little bit lower and more centered, possibly. But I love, at least within the overall context of the rest of the room, I love the art. I love the way it's framed. I love the general placement. I love the proportion in comparison to the size of the wall that it's on. So very good things there. I do also love these like cute little vintage mugs up in this little exposed shelf thingy. That's cute. More of this breakfast nook. Again, it looks functional. And as long as she's happy with it, then I'm happy, I guess. Okay, so these are those little cabinet extensions that were over by the arts. I assume this is what they hired a carpenter for, which makes sense. And I'm all for adding extra storage. I am still a little confused about why they went all the way up, but maybe it's just because she didn't have enough countertop to like extend all the way to the wall. Maybe that was it. I don't know. I do find that people usually have reasons behind the decisions they make. They just may or may not be good reasons, but there are usually reasons there. I do love how she added that there is visible and charming scratches on the countertops, which is very cute. And I do very specifically love any sort of material that will look better with age, because there are a lot of materials that do not look better as they get older. For example, laminate flooring. But there are a few key materials that tend to look better with age, like stainless steel, like real wood, like soapstone countertops, stuff like that. So definitely a fan of adding those into your home wherever possible. Again, another picture of this abomination of an island. I would at least suggest maybe painting all of the fronts of these white to match with like the frame of the rest. But I thought this one was stainless steel, but I don't think it is now that I'm looking at it. I can't tell. Oh, here we go. Okay, this is my favorite shot, I think. I love the bold stripe of the curtain. Although, the grommets, really? Again? Eva, come on. Again, I love the placement of the art. I actually really love this detail where she trimmed out the door in stainless steel. I think that's just a really neat little detail that ties into the countertop so beautifully. And then I wish there was a little less going on over here on the side of the fridge, but I do love how the pot holders are stacked vertically, because I think it reminds me of like when you stack two sconces vertically or something like that. There's something about it that I like. And then here for this other angle of the kitchen, yeah, automatically no to the accordion door. That's a hard no from me. And then I'm curious about the finish on this tall cabinet section, because it looks like just like a whitewashed wood, and there is no whitewash anywhere else. And also she said that she hates shabby chic, and the first thing that I think of when I think of shabby chic is those tacky signs and whitewash. And so I'm curious what the thought process was behind the whitewash, because it's not the same white as the fridges. It's not the same color, whatever this color is, as the rest of the cabinets and the walls. And yeah, again, just curious. Here's a close-up of more of that storage. I don't think there's much more to say about this. I do really love the shape of this bowl, however. I think that's like a very striking shape, very good for a modern kitchen. So I like that little addition. I do wish it had a little bit more of its own moment, because I feel like there's too much stuff around there to really appreciate that bowl for what it is. And then this, okay, this is at a weird angle, but this is, let's go back up and find picture of, okay, back to this picture. Over here is the same angle. Eva, can you let us know in the comments why you chose to go with an angle here instead of just going straight across? It feels like a weird shadow. It feels like a weird perspective thing. And I, again, am just very curious about your thought process, because not a decision I would have personally made. And so here we can see that a little bit better. You did get a very nice crisp line though, so I will give you that. And I do like the little touches of Swedish folk art that are still in here. It looks like a navy blue, and that feels like a really nice color to kind of complement this lime avocado chartreusey green. But yeah, this entire makeover cost her $3,000 to $5,000 US. And as much as I was roasting it, I am genuinely very impressed with how much you did on such a small budget. And as anyone who has ever done any sort of renovation or makeover or DIY project knows, it's always so much more work than it looks. So you should genuinely be super proud of yourself. I love that you love your space. And I love that you really found yourself embracing your own personal style and not caring about what anyone else thinks, and really just doing your own thing. So again, if you'd like me to roast your home, make sure to email me down below. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see more like it, make sure to do all the YouTube-y things to tell the algorithm to show you more of my videos. If you want to help keep a roof over my head, head over to patreon.com/medorakia. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, go to medorakia.com. Bye.